chicken stock. This is probably the easiest stock out of all of them to make. This requires basically 4 components. First, you're going to need mirepoix, which is a collection of 2 parts onion, 1 part carrot, and 1 part celery, all cut evenly, nice sized pieces. Also, you're going to need chicken bones and scraps. Here I have drumsticks. You just want to make sure that you have at least 1.5 pounds per 1 quart finished stock. Next is going to be your aromatic. I have black peppercorns here. You can use any kind of spice or herbs. Just add the herbs in the last 15 minutes of cooking. And then a stock pot of cold water. You don't have to use one this big. You'll just have to do it in batches if you don't have one this big. For tools, you're going to need a pair of tongs. For straining at the end, you'll need a wire strainer. This is like a flour sifter you can use. These are pretty cheap to get, and there's also links on the side if you want to get some of these tools I have here. And then a towel. I've organized making chicken stock into 5 parts. This will make it easy to remember. The first part is going to be blanching, which requires you to put the bones in a pot with cold water and bring it to a boil. As soon as it's a boil, then you want to dump the water out and refill it with cold water. And then at that point, you're going to want to bring it up to a boil again and then keep it at a simmer. Once that simmer is met, you want to keep it there for 4 hours, which is how long you want to cook it. You want to make sure you skim and get all the oil that comes to the top during this 4-hour period to make sure that your stock is clear and as most flavorful as possible. Next, you would add your mirepoix and you allow that to cook for 45 minutes to an hour, and you add your herbs at the last 15 minutes or your spices with the mirepoix. And then finally you would strain it after you allow it to cool just for a little bit first so you don't burn yourself. Unfortunately, we have people out there who put chemicals and dirty stuff on our food, so it's a good idea to go ahead and rinse your products off before you're going to use them for making stocks, just to make sure you get everything off. I have a good illustration on my beef stock video on how you should fill and maintain your stock pots, but just to give you a description here, you want to make sure that your bones and your scraps are always covered with at least 2 inches of water above those bones and scraps, and you want to make sure that it stays like that at that level. Notice how I'm filling this with cold water and not hot water or warm water. Alright, it's come to a boil. Now we need to dump this out. Make sure you grab your hand towel so you don't burn yourself. Removing all that water. And you can see those little clumps that are coming out of the water. That's all the coagulation from inside the chicken. And that's what you're trying to get rid of. Okay. And we're just gonna get out as much as we can. Okay, and then refill this up with cold water. Since any protein coagulates at 180 degrees or cooks, then by putting these ingredients or the bones in cold water, you allow them to reach that 180 degrees and cook for as little time as possible before you discard the blanching water with all the scum in it. Back up to a boil again. Once it reaches a boil, turn it down to a simmer. Down to a simmer or your lowest setting. Alright, this is called a lazy simmer. This is exactly where you need to be at. And keep it just like this. Always remember to continually skim all the white scum that comes to the top, as well as any fat that you might see. You can push them all to one side as one easy way to do it. And then kind of just skim the top and just get them all out. Now comes the aromatics, and goes the peppercorns. and the mirror block. This will now cook for 45 minutes, at which point we'll cool. And then it'll be ready to store after we strain it. Alright. It's probably a good idea to go ahead and pick out the large chunks and squeeze them like I'm doing here, just to kind of get all the juices that collect inside the vegetables. And just a quick note, feel free to use any type of bird that you have, like you can use turkey, squab, for example, duck, as long as it's an edible bird. And if you have like a roasted leftover chicken, you can even use the bones to make stock with that as well. Whenever you're ready to use stock, just use it in place of water. If you have some water and grits, for example, just replace the water for the chicken stock. If you have a stew that says put some water, fill it with the stock instead. By doing this, you're already incorporating so much flavor and nutrition, so you're going to see a dramatic improvement in your food quality. There you have it. For less than $3.50, you have 2 quarts of chicken stock. Put them in the freezer. In the refrigerator, they'll keep about 1 week. In the freezer, they'll stay for about 3 months. Make a whole bunch of stock.